is what is meant by a contract. Then only we can discuss the nature of contract, the different kinds of contracts which are applicable in businesses. So first of all, Indian Contract Act 1872 is the legislation which deals with the contracts related to business as well as personal contracts. So under section 2H of the Indian Contract Act, the word contract has been defined. It says as a contract is an agreement which is enforceable by law. It is a simple definition. Contract is an agreement which is enforceable by law. So there are two things. First is the agreement, and the second thing is enforceability by law. So any agreement which can be enforced in a court of law is known as a contract. Therefore, in a contract, there is an agreement between two or more persons who intend to have legal consequences. Or in other words, we can say people who want to enter into contractual relationship, they will enter into a contract. Therefore, from the definition of contract itself, it is clear that there are two things. There are only two things which make a contract. First is there must be an agreement. The second thing is legal obligation. Now, legal obligation means there is a existence of a legal relationship between the parties. And once there is a legal relationship, either of the parties can move to the court for getting their rights enforced. So this means this is meant by legal obligation. Now we'll talk about agreement. Agreement in simple word means to agree upon a same thing in a same manner. Like we were supposed to conduct our class. The teachers as well as the students have agreed that from 6:30 we'll have our class. So this is an agreement. Although there is no legal compulsion under this, but still there is an agreement. It can be said that both the parties are agreeing on that particular thing in the same sense, in the same manner. So agreement, the definition of agreement is also being defined under section 2E of the Act, which you can go through. Now, there are certain essential elements which are required in a contract. First essential element is that there must be an offer and acceptance. Offer means a person, when there are two parties, one of the parties makes an offer to the other party. It means that party wants to do something, wants to perform something for the other party, and that offer must be accepted by the other party. Then only this circle will be completed. Getting my point? There must be offer from one side, and that particular offer must be accepted from the other side. So as I said, offer can be a thing to do a particular thing, or it can also be to abstain from doing something. For example, if I offer you that I will take your business law class at 6:30, so I'm making an offer to do something for you. Instead, if I made an offer that I will not take class at 6:30, rather I will take class tomorrow. So this means I am offering not to do a particular thing. So both these situations will amount to offer. To do something or abstain from doing something. Both these comprise offer. And whatever the offer is being made has to be accepted from the other side. Then the cycle will be completed. Then the first step of a contract will be completed. Now moving on, the second essential is there is an intention to create legal relationship. See, if two parties or more than two parties are there and they want to enter into a contract, they must have intention to enter into a legal relationship. They must create a legal obligation towards each other. If just verbally I say that I will take your class and you agree that yes, I will attend your class, it does not mean there is a contract. It only means that there is an agreement. We have agreed, but we have not enforced it. We have not enforced it through legal mechanism. Clear? So there must be intention to create legal relationship between the parties in order to complete a contract. Third essential is lawful consideration. Consideration means, basically in layman language, consideration means the price which is involved in the contract, the price at which the other party is buying or he is purchasing the promise. Like I am promising that I will do particular thing for you. So I am promising something. So once you accept my promise, once you accept my offer, and in return, whatever you give to me, that is consideration. That is the price for the promise. So there should also be a price in a contract. A contract in which there is no consideration is void. It is having no value in the eyes of law. So it is a very important element that there must be a lawful consideration. When we say lawful, it means anything which is lawful, which is according to the law, which is not illegal, which is not opposed to public policy. That is lawful. So there must be an offer and acceptance. There should be intention to create legal relationship, and there should be lawful consideration. Next is the parties should be competent to enter into contract. The parties who are there for the contract, they must be competent. Competent means they should be of an age in which they are eligible to enter into a contract. That is, they should be major. They should have attained age of majority. Next is the parties must be of sound mind. And third is they should not be disqualified by law for contracting. Example can be a person who has been sentenced life imprisonment or sentenced for a term of imprisonment for 5 years. He is disqualified by law. He cannot enter into contract. Similarly, if there is a person who is insolvent, he cannot enter into contract. Now, next essential is that consent must be free. Consent means willingness. So the willingness from both the sides should be free. There should not be any coercion. There should not be any undue influence or any fraud or any misrepresentation which gives rise to a contract. So there must be the consent of both the parties must be free. Next is that there should be a lawful object. Lawful object means the objective which is going to be fulfilled after entering into contract. That particular object should be lawful. For example, if in a contract, if A and B want to enter into a contract for construction of a illegal godown, so a godown which is not legal itself is unlawful. An illegal godown, illegal building is itself unlawful. So this should not be the object in a contract. Object should always be lawful. Okay. So basically, these were the essential elements of a valid contract. I will repeat it again. The contract means an agreement which is enforceable by law. Okay. So I gave a general introduction about meaning of contract and what are the essential elements in a contract. Now we will move on to the first topic which we are going to cover, that is a contract of agency. I'll discuss what things we'll discuss in the class. First, we will discuss meaning of agency. Agency is a very commonly used term, but we have to understand this, that for an agency to exist, there must be a contract with regard to that. It is a kind of special contract. Agency is not a simple thing. It is a contract and it is governed under the provisions of Indian Contract Act. So first thing we'll discuss meaning of agency, then meaning of agent and principal. Then the capacity for agency. What is the capacity of the party? What should be the capacity of the parties to form an agency? Then what are the types of agents? What should be the authority of the agent? What are the types of implied authorities? These things we are going to discuss. Then an important concept of sub-agent we will discuss. Then we'll find the differences between sub-agent and substituted agent. And last, we will discuss termination of agency. So I'm starting with this topic. I hope I'm clear. Okay. When we talk about agency, it means when one party delegates his authority to another party, whereby the latter performs his actions in more or less independent fashion. One party here is delegating his authority to another party, and that another party is performing his actions in a more or less independent fashion on behalf of first party. So whatever act the second party is performing, he is performing that on behalf of the first party. This particular relation between both the parties will be called as agency. So this is basically a concept which deals with delegation of authority. A person hereby is delegating his authority to another person, and that another person will act accordingly. He will act in his own manner, but he will act on behalf of the first party, or he will represent the first party. Then it is said that agency is relationship of agency is created between them. So there are two parties. First is the principal. Principal means that person who has delegated his authority to the other person, and that other person will be known as agent. So agent will perform his obligation on behalf of principal in front of the third persons, third parties. For example, A appoints B as his agent. So what A is doing? A is delegating his authority. A is delegating his authority to B for dealing with the third parties. C, in order to deal with C, A will not go to deal with C. Rather, B will go to deal with C because B is the agent of A. Clear? Now, why we are talking about this concept? This is because nearly all business transactions worldwide are carried out through agency. Everywhere the concept of agency is involved. All corporations, whether big or small, they carry out their work through agency. Now, this agency may be expressed or it may be implied. Expressed means something which is said or which is written, and implied means something which itself is implied by the circumstances. It is evident that there is existence of that fact. So agency can both be expressed as well as implied. When we talk about agency under Indian Contract Act, chapter 10 deals with the concept of agency. Whatever things we are going to discuss has been dealt under chapter 10 of Indian Contract Act 1872. Now coming to the meaning of agent and principal. As per section 182 of the Act, agent is a person who is employed to do any act for another or to represent another in dealing with third persons. Here the term another means the principal. Agent is acting on behalf of principal, or he is representing himself on behalf of principal in dealings with third persons. Whenever he is dealing with the third persons, he whatever act he is doing or whatever representation he is doing, it is supposed that he is doing that for the other person, and that other person is the principal. So principal is the person for whom such act is done or who is so represented. Therefore, it can be said that the person who has delegated his authority will be the principal, and to whom authority has been delegated will be the agent. Now moving on to capacity of creation of agency. Capacity means what is the capacity of the principal, what should be the capacity of the agent. So as per section 183, any person who has attained the age of majority, any person who has attained age of majority and who is of sound mind. A person of sound mind means a rational person, a prudent person. So anyone can become agent, provided that he is a major, that is, he has attained age of majority and he is of sound mind. So it implies that a person who is capable of entering into a contract can legally appoint the agent. At the same time, he can become the agent as well. So these things are dealt under section 183 and 184. 183 deals with the capacity for becoming principal, and section 184 deals with capacity for becoming an agent. The capacity is similar for both of them. They must be of sound mind and they should have attained age of majority. Then only either of the persons can become a principal or an agent. Now we move on to creation of agency. How the agency is created. We have understood who are the what is meant by agency, who are the parties to the agency, and before that we have understood the basic meaning of contract. I hope I am clear. Okay. Now the first way in which an agency can be created is by direct appointment or by express appointment. So basically, direct appointment is the standard form of creation of an agency. Standard form means this is the simplest and easiest and most common way of creating an agency. In a direct appointment, a person either in writing or by speaking appoints another person as his agent, and hereby he creates the relationship of agency. When that person either by saying or by writing appoints another person to be his agent, it is said that agency is created by direct appointment. Clear? Second, agency by implication. When an agent is not directly appointed, rather his appointment can be inferred from the circumstances. It can be seen from the circumstances, or it can be drawn from the circumstances that the relationship between the two persons is that of principal and agent. Hereby, the agency by implication is created. Simply saying, agency by implication means when it is clear from the circumstances that a person is acting as an agent towards another person on behalf of principal, then agency by implication is created. So what is important? Looking into the circumstances of the case is important. Once the circumstances show that agency is there, it means agency has been created. Next is agency by necessity. Necessity means a situation of utmost emergency. Okay, nothing else can be done. So if there is a situation that one person acts on behalf of another person without his consent, if one person acts on behalf of another person without his consent in order to save the other person from any loss or damage, what is important? He must save the other person from any loss or damage, but he has not obtained consent prior. He is not having the prior consent of that person. Still, we can say that agency is created because the person who had acted on his behalf, he acted in order to save him from any loss or damage. So if such is the situation, it can be said that agency by necessity is created. So the important thing is that the person should not have the opportunity to communicate or have any communication with the person. then only agency by necessity can be created. If he had option to communicate, then this situation may not arise. Then it would have been direct appointment. But since the person was unable to contact and he had to save that person from any loss, he acted in that regard. So agency by necessity got created. Now coming to the fourth manner in which agency can be created, it is agency by estoppel. Agency can also be created by estoppel. Estoppel basically is a rule that once a particular thing has been represented and people have acted on that representation, people have taken decision on that representation, that particular representation cannot be moved back, cannot be taken back. So if there is a situation that one person is behaving in such a manner in front of third persons as to make them believe that he is the authorized agent of that first person, if he behaves in such a manner, if a person behaves in such a manner that he is an authorized agent of another person, and on that representation the third party takes steps or takes action, so that situation is termed as agency by estoppel. This particular situation gives rise to agency by estoppel. Neither the principal, neither the first party, neither the second party can be stopped, can take back their steps because they have ultimately represented, and that representation has caused the third parties to believe that yes, there was a agency relation between both of them. So it will be said that agency by estoppel is created. And the last way by which agency may be created is agency by ratification. Ratification means approving something, ratifying something, or upholding something. For example, if I had done a particular act 1 year ago and you upheld that act, you approved that act, so it will be said that you have ratified my act. There has been ratification. A particular thing which has been done in the past, when it is approved at the present time, it is said that ratification takes place. So agency can also be created by way of ratification. When an when an act of a person who acted as another person's agent, when act of a person who acted as an agent of another person without his knowledge is later ratified by that person. This means the person ratifies his act, he approves his act. So it gives rise to a situation which is known as agency by ratification. When the person had done that act, he was not the agent, but still in future, or I should say in the present situation, the person says that okay, whatever act you have done, I ratify that act, I approve that act. So agency by ratification is created. So these were the 5 kinds in which an agency can be created. Okay, now moving on, the different types of agents. The first category is a special agent. That particular agent who is appointed to do a special act or a specific act or a single act, and once that act gets over, the agent is no more an agent. This agent gets terminated once that particular act has been done. So this he will be known as special agent, or it, he may also be called specific agent, because he is an agent for a specific act. Once that specific act gets over, gets completed, his agency gets completed, gets over. The next is general agent. General agent is a person who is appointed to do all the acts relating to a particular business. He may have his office timings from 9 to 5. Whatever act he is doing between 9 to 5, it will be presumed that he is acting on behalf of his principal. that person will be a general agent. Next is sub-agent. As the name suggests, sub-agent means an agent when appoints another person under him to perform a particular task. That person will be known as sub-agent. He is the sub-agent to the agent. Next is co-agent. Co-agent is a person who has been appointed with other agents collectively. For example, there is a principal, he appoints 5 agents under him. So all those 5 agents will be co-agent for each other. Clear? Next is factor. Factor is a remuneration and he has the authority to sell the goods of the principal. So factor is that agent who has the authority to sell the goods of the principal and who will receive remuneration by way of commission. Then only he will be known as a factor. Next is a broker. That agent whose job is to create a contractual relationship between two parties. That agent will be known as broker. So whoever makes two parties come together and enter into a contract, that person, that agent will be known as broker. Next is auctioneer. Auctioneer is that agent who conducts auction on behalf of the principal, or it can be said that that agent who sells particular goods by way of auction for the principal. He will be known as auctioneer. And last is commission agent. Commission agent is that agent who has the authority to buy or sell goods, or he has the authority to make the best purchase or best deal for his principal. And as the name suggests, he will receive remuneration in the form of commission. So, all the 8 categories of agents I have discussed, barring factor and commission agent, other kinds of agents will receive remuneration either by way of salary or by way of lump sum amount. But only the factor and commission agent will receive remuneration in form of commission. They will receive commission as according to the sale or purchase made by him. Now, now we move on to authority of an agent. What authority an agent must have, or what authority has been delegated by the principal to the agent. So in this regard, section 187 talks very explicitly. Section 187 says that there are 2 categories of authorities. One is express authority and the other is implied authority. As the name suggests, express means anything which is written or which is spoken. So whatever authority the agent is having, if it is expressed, if it is written, or if it is said to him, that authority will be expressed authority. And if the authority is nowhere mentioned, it is nowhere written, but it is only implied or it is only presumed by the circumstances, then it will be known as implied authority. Therefore, what is the important thing? The authority will be termed as implied authority only when it is inferred from the facts and circumstances of the case. If the agent carries out the work of the principal, he can take any legal action. So taking this legal action is an implied authority. Since nowhere it is written that agent, in this situation, nowhere it is written that the agent is capable of taking legal action, but it is implied that since he is dealing with the third persons, to protect his principal, he can take any legal action or he can do any lawful thing which is essential for the work of the principal. Now I'll discuss the types of implied authorities. First is incidental authority. It means doing something that is very much incidental to the due performance of express authority. For example, an agent may have the authority to sell a land for the principal. He's having the authority to sell a particular land for his principal. So if he signs a contract in this regard with the third persons, this is incidental to the due performance of express authority. It is very much incidental because in order to sell that particular land, it was very much required that he must have signed a contract. So this authority is incidental to the express authority. Next is usual authority. Anything which usually may be done by other persons in that capacity is the usual authority of the agent. For example, visiting a particular office. This is the usual authority because every agent can do that. So doing something which is usually done by persons occupying the same position is known as usual authority. Coming to the customary authority. Customary authority means doing something according to the customs or according to the pre-established norms or custom of trade, usage of trade. So whenever an agent does something which is according to the custom of trade or pre-established customs, then it is said that he is exercising his customary authority. Signing a bill of exchange, signing a document, signing a token, this may be a customary authority because it may happen that in that particular trade, that particular signing of the document was a custom. So he has this customary authority. Similarly, the last is circumstantial authority. As the name suggests, whatever authority is there with the agent because of the circumstances of the case will be known as circumstantial authority. For example, uh, in order to do the work for the principal, if the agent has to transport some laborers from one place to another, he has to either book a vehicle or arrange for a transportation. So that will be a circumstantial authority because it was very much implied that as per the circumstances, it was essential to have to do that particular act by the agent. So this was circumstantial authority. So I hope until now it is very much clear. Now you may ask because I'll only cover up till now. Next thing I'll cover in the next class. So up till now, if any confusion or any query is there, you may ask.
Hi, sir. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello. Sir,
Good
this
evening.
is
Good
Samuel
evening.
Das calling. Sir, can you repeat once again, sir? 183, 184 about the capacities point.
Okay. Okay.
Please do the
See.
needful, sir.
Okay. Yes. I will explain that. Section
Yeah.
183 and 184. Both of them talk about the capacity of being an agent and principal. Because in a contract of agency, there are two parties. First is the principal and the other is the agent. So both these sections provide that if a person wants to be a principal or a person wants to be an agent, in both the situations, that particular person must be of age of majority. He should not be a minor. Similarly, he should be of sound mind. He should be able to think properly. He should not be an insane person or mentally unfit person. Then only both of them are capable of becoming either principal or the agent. So basically, this is the capacity for contract, capacity for becoming agent and principal. Section, I hope this is very much clear. Two important things are there. The
Yes,
person
sir. Yes, sir.
should be a major. That means under Indian laws, he should be above 18 years of 18 years or above 18 years of age. And at the same time, he should be of sound mind. Then only he may become the principal or the agent. Very much simple. Section 183 and 184. So basically, for understanding these kinds of special contracts, what I may suggest to you, you can go through the basic meaning of contract first of all. As I discussed in brief in the starting, because I had to cover this concept of agency, I did not cover that much detail, but you may go through the basic elements of a contract. So basic things will be clear, and then we'll nicely cover these topics, because capacity has been very nicely dealt under Indian Contract Act. Basically, capacity means capacity to enter into a contract. Who can enter into a contract? You and I can enter into a contract, provided we both are of sane mind, we both are of that age, we are not barred by law. So these are the basic things. Okay. So anything else?
Good evening, sir. Hina here.
Good evening. Good evening,
I
Hina.
had a question on the agent by necessity. Why will a third party be an agent for a principal
Okay.
without his knowledge? What is his advantage? Why would he do that?
Okay. I'll tell you. See, for example, there are two people, you and I. You were supposed to incur a particular loss or a damage, okay? And in order
Yes.
to, you are my student. So in order to save you from that particular loss, I did something. So in this case, I did not had the opportunity to contact you, but still,
Okay.
because I knew you, I was knowing you, I did that act for you, but for saving you from any loss. So in that case, since I had done that for you, so it will be said that agency by necessity is created. You cannot,
So
if you
in
can,
this
if
case,
you
one
deny
party
that
is
as a,
known to another one.
ha. For this,
Right.
it
Right.
is very
Got
much
that.
important. Ha. Then
Understood
only
now. Thank you,
because,
sir.
okay. So I'm stopping this screen sharing. Rumna ma'am,
Yes, sir.
I think ma'am, I'm done with the class.
Yes, you're done with the class.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, students. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot.
Okay. See you in the next class. Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes, Rajkumar, sir, you are there.
Yeah, ma'am, I'm there, I'm there.
So how
Good evening, Rajkumar sir.
to share?
Good evening, sir, Devai sir.
Okay, sir. Bye bye.
Hmm. Bye, bye, bye.
Okay.